How's everybody doing? It's me, Crazy Frankie, and I'd like to welcome you to my Week 3 4 key game picks. Before we get into that, gotta talk about Week 2. Now, what can I say? Headlines coming out of Week 2. Obviously, the big headline was definitely the San Diego Chargers beating the Seattle Seahawks in a huge upset and a big upset win for the Chargers in San Diego. Now, a lot of people are saying, did the Chargers started putting out the blueprint to how to beat the defending champions? I'm not going to necessarily say that they might have, but I just think probably the way San Diego managed the game throughout the whole 4 quarters, you got to give a ton of props to San Diego, and it was very important for San Diego to get off on a good start, and they did, and they struck Seattle very early and very quickly. Now, as far as for the rest of the league goes, I'm not really sure if I want to say that they really did put out the blueprint. I mean, everybody who saw Twitter and all, Richard Sherman was saying that San Diego said they exposed them, and he was saying like these guys are funny. I have to admit that probably was the funniest headline throughout the whole week 2 sequence. But other than that, I got to give many props to San Diego for beating Seattle. I didn't think San Diego had a chance in that game. The way that Seattle was playing, but give them a ton of credit. They got the job done. Will the NFL start borrowing the game plan for what San Diego did to Seattle? I'm pretty sure they will. But is it going to be effective? I probably don't think so. I think to me Seattle is just too good of a team. They know they can make the adjustments, and I know they're going to be fine down the stretch. So if anybody who's a Seahawks fan here, I wouldn't worry about them so much. Blunders. Mornhinweg. New York Jets. How in the hell do you call a timeout, which in retrospect, that really it's the head coach that's supposed to call a timeout? Anybody who saw the New York Jets Green Bay game, the Jets it was a 4th down, and then it was supposedly a touchdown play, but the referees blew the whistle after that, saying that was actually called, that the Jets called a timeout. I don't know how the referees let it be a timeout, but I mean, even I knew as a football guru that really the head coach is the one that's supposed to call a timeout in that sequence. And what happened in the end of that game? The Jets didn't score. They ended up losing to Green Bay, which in all honesty, that game should have been tied. But I don't know how that happened. That kind of hurts the Jets a little bit, But then again, you build a lead in the first half and you let the Green Bay Packers come back in the second half. That kind of shows your vulnerability defensive-wise. And how about Colin Kaepernick and the 49ers? You build a lead in that new stadium they just built, a great opening pomp and circumstance and pageantry, that the 49ers, they had a lead throughout that game, and then the Bears basically were horrible in the first half of that game, but yet Jay Cutler actually finally had balls and stepped up in the second half. But in all honesty, there was a lot of penalties in that game that really were the killer for both sides. But in retrospect, really, it was the turnovers that really killed San Francisco in that game. And all of them were on Colin Kaepernick. 2 interceptions and a fumble. That's really... if you're going to be this high-flying player and all that for now, I have to put all this on Kaepernick now. I don't know. I'm starting to think now that I think everybody knows in the NFL, they know in the recipe to put these mobile quarterbacks in their place. It's tough to say now what the 49ers will do going into week number 3. They got a tough matchup coming up, and that's not going to be easy. But as far as the rest of week number 2 is concerned, some surprises. Another upset was the Browns beating the Saints. If anybody who's a Saints fan and all that, I knew there was going to be some problems. I'm noticing now in Rob Ryan. I get the Ryan family mixed up, and I like the Ryan family. They're awesome. I know they're douchebags, but they're awesome family. I love them. But Rob Ryan's defense, I don't know. The 3 and 4 defense, I don't know if it's working for the New Orleans Saints here. They're not getting, their pass rush isn't all that great. really, I mean, just in 2 games alone, they've already given up close to 60 points. I don't know. This Saints team, I don't know. Something's not right with their defense. Something's really not right. And big props, and going out of that game, big props to the Baltimore Ravens. I mean, they really answered what, after everything that's happened with that team. They responded very well in a huge victory over Pittsburgh, in which originally I had Pittsburgh winning that game, but really give mad props to them. Anyways, enough about that. Enough of talking about week 2. Let's get into week 3. So the schedule for week 3, a lot of these games are tough to pick. I'm not lying to you. A lot of these games are tough to pick. So these are the key games that I've come up with. I mean, if I'm looking at the rest of the schedule and I'm just looking at the latest point spreads here, a lot of these games are going to be very close, except for one. I think it was the New England Patriots and the Oakland Raiders. That game's not. We all know that game's not even going to be close. Patriots are favored by 14 in that game. My God, you can't even put a bigger spread than that, and can't even put a bigger point spread than that. But anyways, that's not going to be a key game. You know, people who know me personally, I hate the Raiders. I don't care for them. But anyways, enough about that. Let's get into the key games. My first key game is the Green Bay Packers at the Detroit Lions. Detroit coming off a terrible performance down in Carolina, and Green Bay basically had to come from behind against the New York Jets. This game could not be any tighter. This one's a huge toss-up here. The game is in Detroit. But the way the Lions played, I just don't know. I don't really know that well of Matthew Stafford. I mean, the way he played in that game against Carolina was just bad. I think he had like 2 turnovers in that game. I think both of them were interceptions. It's really tough to say who comes out of this game. I mean, Detroit, they seem to have played well. I mean, they played their first game at home, and they destroyed the Giants. And by every point spread on every website that I've read, Detroit is just barely a favorite by 1 point. But for this game and all, if the way the Lions are playing right now and the way Green Bay can easily come back, I have to go with the Green Bay Packers in this game. I mean, this Green Bay Packers team, I mean, don't count them out. Just because they gave up a huge lead in the first half of that game, but they had to come from it. This is a team that can come back. And the way Detroit played in that last game, I mean, this game could not be any more of a toss-up and a tighter game than this. And it will be very close. No question this game is going to be close. But the thing for Detroit, they got to be disciplined defensive-wise, and Matthew Stafford has got to cut the turnovers here. They're having a hard time effectively running the ball, and Matthew Stafford is just going crazy throwing the ball. He's just not getting right. This is why I'm picking Green Bay in this game. I just don't think that if the Lions can't be that consistent in this game, they need to be, because Green Bay wants to get on a roll here, and I think they're going to get it in this game. I just think, to me, Green Bay is I mean, I know the Lions are favored in this game just barely, but I just think Green Bay is a tad better offensive wise, and I gotta say the Green Bay Packers are going to beat the Detroit Lions in this game. Packers over the Lions. Key game number 2, the San Diego Chargers at the Buffalo Bills. Coming off flying, the Chargers are kind of rolling flying high after the huge win over Seattle, but obviously you're playing a different Buffalo Bills team. Buffalo coming off a huge victory over the Dolphins last week. It was a pretty impressive win. I'll give them that. And offense and defensive wise, they do have this is a very well balanced young team. And the Chargers are definitely going to have their hands full in this game, because this game is in Buffalo. And there's no question, I haven't read much in regards to Ryan Matthews. I mean, Ryan Matthews got hurt in the game last week against Seattle. So this one's another toss-up here. But the way the Chargers played, if they could continue playing that style of football, it could give the Buffalo Bills some problems. So, yeah, I'm kind of I'm kind of being a homer on this one here. But no question, this game is a huge toss-up. This one's a big toss-up here. I'm going to go with the Chargers in this game. I just think if they can control the clock and just not turn the ball over and just keep the ball out of the hands of this young Bills offense and defense, I think San Diego has a shot in this game, even without Ryan Matthews. But Buffalo's defense, they look pretty good. Buffalo's offense, they did a very good job of scoring points on the Dolphins. And like I said, this game is a huge toss-up. Expect this game to be close all the way. But I'm going to go as a homer here. I know I'm being biased here, but I'm going to go with the Chargers in this game. I know Buffalo is favored in this one. Buffalo, I think, is a 2.5-point favorite, but I just think the way if San Diego can play this style of football, the way they did with the Seahawks, I think they have a chance to beat Buffalo in this game. I'm going to go with the Chargers over the Bills. Key game number 3, the Super Bowl rematch between the Denver Broncos and the Seattle Seahawks. Denver, I have to admit, I don't know what's going on with the Denver Broncos here. Their last 2 games by just a touchdown. They only won by 1 touchdown. Something is not right defensive-wise for the Denver Broncos. And you're going into a big hostile environment in Seattle. It's going to be tough for Peyton Manning, especially with that stadium that Seattle has. It's going to be loud. And I think Seattle is a 5-point favorite in this game, and they are, and they should be. I mean, if the way the Denver defense played against Indianapolis and Kansas City in their last 2 games, it's tough to really say what Seattle's going to bring. I mean, I'm pretty certain Seattle's going to get back on track here. There's no question about it. Will this game be close? Probably not. I don't think this game will be that close. The way Denver's defense basically almost let the Colts and the Chiefs come back to tie their games or possibly even beat them. Their defense right now, they're struggling. I know Denver can score points. There's no question about it. They basically have put up, I think, close to 50 points in their last 2 games. But if their defense is not sharp, I just think Seattle's going to run over them both in the running and passing game. And I'm pretty certain the Seattle Seahawks will definitely get on track in this game. This game, I don't think it will be close, but I don't think it'll be a huge blowout, though. But I just think Seattle is a tad better. And there's no question that there's no question I'm going to give the edge to Seattle here. I got to go with the Seattle Seahawks here. Denver's defense is bringing up questions, and I just don't, especially with Seattle's dynamic offense, I think Denver's going to have a huge problem in this game. Seahawks over the Broncos. And key game number 4, the 49ers at the Arizona Cardinals. Cardinals are on a roll. Their last 2 games, beating the Chargers and the Giants. Boy, this team really is well. They're being coached very well, offense and defense. They did a fantastic job of taking care of the Chargers and the Giants in their games. And for San Francisco, the way they played last week against Chicago, I mean, you got to worry. You kind of have to worry here. I mean, San Francisco's defense is already stretched thin, and like I said, they're having developing problems here. And I don't know how Jim Harbaugh is going to be able to get these players motivated for this game. I mean, Arizona, and the fact is that Arizona is an underdog in this game, believe it or not. But I don't know. I kind of would say this game could not be any more even. But if I'm gonna, this is another toss-up here. Tough to really say who comes. This game was definitely going to be close. There's no question about it. The way Arizona's playing, their offense is doing a great job scoring points. Their defense, I give them a lot of credit. Their defense really has stepped up in the 2 games against the Chargers and the Giants. I mean, you could kind of say that I would pick Arizona here, but I would say that San Francisco gets back on track here. There's no way I could see them losing another game here. San Francisco, I'm pretty certain now, if they can not turn the ball over, I'm going to give an edge to the 49ers here. I mean, these 2 teams are evenly matched here, so it's tough to really say who comes out the victor in this one. San Francisco's a 2.5-point favorite in this one. And like I said, as long as the running game can still come into, I mean, the way they played against the Bears in the first half of that game, they just got to keep that consistency going. Now, Colin Kaepernick has got to make better decisions here. And if he's going to run with the ball, he's got to really use his talent like he did a few years ago to really put up a lot of yards. And for some reason, he's not doing it. I don't know, but I just think the 49ers, if they can get the running game going and control the clock, and if their passing game can get a little bit better, I will say the 49ers here will barely edge out a victory over Arizona. I just think, to me, the 49ers need this game more than the Cardinals do. And San Francisco does not want to fall down to 1-2 to start off the first 3 weeks of the season. So I'll say the 49ers barely edge out a victory. I think their offense is what's going to keep Arizona's defense on the field much more longer than they did in the other games. I'm going to say the 49ers barely beat the Cardinals in this one. Well, everybody, that's it. That's it for my key game picks for week number 3. Remember, I have a new blog link now. I've now made some changes. My latest changes to my blog now is, remember, my new link is now the Sport Blog at blogspot.com. So that's going to be all of where you're going to find all of my NFL picks from now on. I made it into a sports blog because if there's one thing I love talking about is sports, and I know everybody loves talking about it, and I plan to do a little bit more with that blog. I want to try to really make it from a perspective from the average sports fan and not just all these sport beat writers and all these other people. I mean, this is more for the average Joes who know and have their thoughts on what they say in sports. Well, anyways, this video is already taking a little bit long. And anyways, I will see you all next week for week number 4. Until then, enjoy your football weekend.